It's a whole lot of us, that's my family. Wanna go higher, turn up the tempo, increase the BPM, okay. Increase the BPM. Increase the BPM. Increase the BPM. Increase the BPM.
What's up, guys? Chris Morgan, FCA at the University of Louisville. Welcome to our weekly podcast, In the Huddle, where we ask current or former athletes and coaches to come into this huddle, to come in this space, and to talk about their stories, what God has done in and what he's continuing to do. Today, I am humbled and excited, jacked up, all of those other things, to have a good friend, Anna Stevenson Hall, on our show today. Anna, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you,
and being
Chris.
part. Yeah,
I wish Tammy was here, but I never talked to you as much one-on-one.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, Tammy's the best part of me, so I'm glad. She loves you, and she loves doing life with you, so I'm excited to have you on. Hey, I know a lot about you, but the people that will be listening today may not. So I want us to go all the way back to was it Lawrence, South Carolina, right?
Yes.
Tell us what was it like growing up in your house? I met your family. Your family are great people, but tell us what it was like growing up in your home.
We don't have a big family. It's just me, my brother, mom, and dad. But my grandmother lives across the road. My cousins live next door. I've got 3 girl cousins, and so I think the one thing that sticks out to me from my childhood is like Sunday lunches. Like every person, and as the girls, my cousins get married, and then as I got married, it just expanded from there, and now we've got kids.
So Sunday
around.
lunches, who cooked? Is that just mom? Is that everybody hooked in?
Grandma cooked. She doesn't do it anymore, and they actually don't do it anymore because now we've got people all over the place. But that's what sticks out to me. And then when we did marriage counseling with you and Tammy, you asked, what's something that you want to carry on from your family? And I think that was mine. Like, I want Sunday lunch to be a big family thing.
Sunday lunch right after church.
Right after church.
Yeah. So tell me with sports. I mean, obviously, your mom and dad don't seem like the pushy kind of people to do anything other than just love people and love God, honestly. Were sports a big deal in your family?
My dad always wanted us to be the best at what we did, but I don't look back and feel like I was forced to do a lot or go to a lot of camps or take lessons. And I think now players start really young specializing, but I tried every sport, and volleyball was just the best, the sport that I was best at. I don't think they put a lot of pressure on me. I think we just enjoyed it as a family.
So you say a lot of sports. Was it obviously volleyball, basketball?
Basketball, cheerleading. I tried dance. I don't like individual things. I don't like feeling like people are looking at me. So dance and cheerleading did not suit me. Basketball was too physical, too aggressive. I did flag football when I was little. And I think that was the extent. Softball. But yeah, volleyball's the best.
And so what year did you say, okay, volleyball, I've been given a gift by God. I want to... This could really lead to something special.
8th grade was when I started to play competitively, and from there it just took off.
So competitively for for volleyball, what does that look like?
You play like basketball. I think they have AAU.
Yeah,
it's like that, but we call it club. And I started playing club in 8th grade, and then switched to better and better clubs, and just kept getting better.
Okay, yeah. So you recruiting. Obviously, recruiting has its own monster nowadays, but when you were being recruited, you chose Auburn. Tell me what Auburn. Tell me why. What was Auburn? Why then? And what did they have to offer then?
So I don't think I watched a lot of college volleyball growing up, and I love seeing Louisville volleyball be huge now, and like little kids are watching. But I can't remember watching a single game on TV, and I don't know if that was because like ESPN Plus didn't exist. I don't know, but. When I was getting recruited, like Purdue reached out, and I remember telling my dad I wasn't going to go there because they had short sleeve jerseys, and I thought that looked bad. And Purdue is really good. Like, I was so clueless, and so I don't know. We just didn't know what was going on. And Auburn was such a cool school. One of the assistant coaches was a really, really great Christian. 2 on staff were, but he was just so bold with his faith, really knew how to appeal to my family. He had a beautiful family. I loved the coaches. I loved him. And so I committed there because they had great football, great facilities, and it's kind of naive and like a little surfacey, but I was like, I can tell someone, oh, I'm going to Auburn, and they know what it is. And I thought that was just cool as a 10th grader.
So you committed to Auburn. You go to Auburn. You start playing volleyball. You're getting some time as a freshman. So you're contributing. Then you change. You come to University of Louisville. You transfer. What was the draw to come to University of Louisville?
I roomed with Tori Dilfer Stringer on my first visit, and me and her are pretty similar. We're really different, but I'd say similar in all the ways that matter. And speaking to her, talking about FCA and how big that was here, because it wasn't so huge at Auburn, and to hear that a lot of the girls on the team they did Bible study together. I felt like my position group was perfectly weird. I love connecting with my position group, and I felt like they were just like me. And the staff said that they did not need me to come, but I would be a great addition. And I liked that they didn't make me feel like we need you to be good. Like we're already good, but I think you could help make us better. And that appealed to me.
Yeah. Well, I remember you.
I met you.
Yeah, I remember you coming and talking with you and just about FCA and the importance of it, and the coaches were with me the same way they were with you. It's like, hey, this girl, I think she can contribute on the court, but I think she's really going to contribute to you and the FCA program probably even more at the time. And man, you proved that to be true with FCA, but you exceeding abundantly, as the Bible says, more than they could hope or even imagine with volleyball on the court. Tell me what it's like playing volleyball at the University of Louisville. Now you said, hey, it didn't have a whole lot of pass maybe. Now it does. I mean, it's a household name, and you guys were part of that. So tell me some times that you missed the most about Louisville volleyball.
I probably look back with is it rose-colored glasses? I think that's like a phrase. I look back and I'm like, it was all so fun and wonderful. But then when me and Tori talked, she was like, oh, I remember this day you like we were just talking about how looking back, why weren't we so happy all the time? Some days you just don't want to practice or stuff, but training with them now, they're letting me come back just to get some touches. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the best place to be. This is great team culture, great staff. They recruit great players and athletes, and they develop you so well. I came in so raw and just really underdeveloped, and they just, I don't know. I feel like I was really able to capitalize, whatever, on my skills just because of the way they coached me and trained me. But just the team feels like a family. The locker room, I never felt like there's always negative moments and things you have to work through, but overall as a culture, I'd say it's just top. Yeah. It's the best.
And you guys made that. I mean, you guys helped develop that. When somebody says that becomes part of the culture, well, you guys did that. So where does that come from? I mean, obviously you're really, really good at the sport, but yet you're really humble in your approach. You're a star on the court. I mean, you're a professional. So on the court, you carry yourself that. But off the court, you're easy to get along with. You're fun. You're exciting. You engage, whether it's the high person or the low person. Where do you get that from?
I think I was never on a good team until Louisville. And so I think that being on teams that lost, I guess that taught me to be humble. And then, I don't know, I've always wanted to be someone that can connect with everyone. And I've heard that you want to give what you want yourself. And I guess it is nice to feel included and you're not the outcast. So I want to do that for others. But here at Louisville, once we were good and once I started to feel like I was a good player, I remember we played at Cincinnati and we were winning And Mel McHenry had the best game of her life, and Jordan Thompson, a current 2-time Olympian, was across the net, and she had the best game of her life in college. And I did horribly. And after the game, I was just so like down, and I didn't care that we won because I personally done so badly. And on the bus after the game, Dan Meskey, he called me up and he was like, "You have the worst attitude right now. Like, you're being so selfish. The team got a great win against a great opponent, and all you care about is your own performance. Like, you have to fix this for this team." And I think that was the first time that I had a coach tell me I was being selfish, and I feel like that fixed that for me. And as much as I'd like to think my motives are pure all the time, and I'm really humble, there are still moments that I have to like tamp that down a little bit and remind myself. And I think the longer I've played, the more humble I've gotten, because since Louisville, I have just been like, you make a roster with the national team, you get cut, you have a good season overseas. This year I had not so great season overseas. And so the longer I'm out of college, I feel like the more humble I'm forced to be.
Yeah. I can, as you look at the Bible that Paul writes, 3/4 of the New Testament, but the older Paul becomes, the more he thinks less of himself. And here's a guy that writes, or God uses to write most of the New Testament, and he's still, as he grows older, he's more aware of his need for Jesus. And so, I think what you said is accurate. We become older and we just like, oh man, I got so far to go.
Yeah.
But I'm not where I used to be. Yeah. So you come from a family of faith. I've been to your hometown. I've been to that small country church where you got married. I mean, it's like a storybook. Tell us about your upbringing as far as your faith and your walk with Christ.
I think my faith has always been genuine, and I guess it does get deeper with time, but I do believe that, like, at 5 years old, like, I genuinely believed in Jesus Christ, even if I didn't understand it. I had, like, mommy-daughter devotionals and then, like, a daddy-daughter one, and we would do that every night. We would pray together every night. And I wanted to get baptized when I was 5, but it was so that I could have the juice and crackers, because at my first church, you would only get communion if you were baptized, and I was so jealous. And I told my parents I wanted to get baptized, and they met with the pastor, and he was like, "She seems kind of young, like, give it a week or two, and if she's still bringing it up, we'll do it." And sure enough, I dropped it. And I got baptized at 8, fully meant it. I think I knew what that meant at the time, and like you said, the older you get, the more you learn and the more you grow.
So faith is important to you. Obviously, you come to Louisville, you start to grow in the FCA, and you start to use, and you probably did in high school as well, but in college, I know what I saw, you really use your platform as an athlete to point people to Jesus. How can an athlete do that? I mean, what's some ways that tangible, even if you've been a professional, how can you use that platform to point people to Jesus?
I think one thing I was always like envious of Tori of, and probably even unhealthily at times, but it did make me better, was how she was able to lead so vocally and speak about her faith so clearly. And she's such a good speaker, and I don't feel like I quite have that. So I always admired that, but I do think that in college I did a good job of just trying to connect with people personally, and I've carried that over into my professional career. Like, every Tuesday, my husband and I would have teammates over for Taco Tuesday. And that was like a New Year's resolution. We were like, we want to host people every week, 2 people at a time. So I think for me, that has been the best way to do it, is to invite people into my home or my apartment. I don't have a home yet. And connect with people on like a close face-to-face way off the court. I think that's how you do it. And doing the same in college, asking people to go eat one-on-one, whether that's freshmen or a new transfer or somebody.
It's great to see a college athlete grow in their faith, and then they meet someone at college that is just as much on fire for Christ, and then the two of them live out God's purposes together. And you have some stories where one is maybe a stronger believer, or one's not a believer, and they pray and hope that the other partner comes to Christ. But you you and your husband, Duncan, share your faith, that it's both important to both of you. How important is that?
I think it's incredibly important. And our faiths look different. And I've been like reading this marriage book, and it talks about how like maybe like my quiet time, and it is like this, like I journal, I write my prayers, I write what I'm praying about, and I write about what I read in the Bible. I'm just trying to go front to back, in no particular like pace. It's slow. And so sometimes I find myself like, Duncan has to do the same thing as me. Like he needs to be writing, and his faith is different and he reads, but the book pointed out like, do I want him to be like me or do I want him to be like Christ? And I think in many ways he is more like Christ than I am. Like he's more generous than me, like much more generous with his time and what he does for people. And I think he serves others well. He's far more patient than I am. So I think our faiths look very different, and maybe sometimes like I'm tempted to think my way is right, but I'm glad we have a balance, and he leads by example in so many ways.
Yeah, there is an incredible balance between the two of you, but I don't think I've ever. I don't know if I've been around a couple that is as selfless as the two of you. Like both of you all together. Like you all were selfless when you were by yourself, and now you are together and you're just as much selfless as a married couple. And that just goes, I mean, Taco Tuesday, that doesn't surprise me at all. You know, I mean, but you all could have a Whopper Wednesday, and you could have Turkey Thursday, and it wouldn't matter because you guys are all about serving others. Well, catch us up to speed. Tell us what you're doing now.
Well, first, I think it helps to have you and Tammy to look at. I mean, the amount of times in FCA we had, I loved the relationship series. Like, you guys would walk us through that and do like a Q&A, and I think we can just look at you guys and we want to emulate that. But
well, we want to open our lives up. You know, we want couples to see, or just individuals for that matter, the good, but also the challenging. You know, marriage is not always perfect. You know, you have selfishness that comes in, you have insecurities that come in, you have angers, frustrations, you have kids that add to this and add to that, and
but your kids are perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, and they just pull you in different directions, but there has to be a constant. Like this is a stake in the ground. This is our anchor that's going to hold that our relationship with Christ is number one, and then the love that we have for each other. That has to be, because our girls will, God willing, grow up and marry godly men, but then it's going to be Tammy and I.
Yeah.
And so we have to keep that a constant. Well, even speaking about FCA, what's something why should an athlete be part of FCA?
I think that you opened the year by saying it's free food, and that draws some people in. But I think being a part of it for the community and to get to know athletes from other sports, I think especially for people who maybe struggle in one way, I don't know, you're injured. Maybe there's not another injured person on your team, but there's definitely one in another sport. And I think FCA can really connect people in similar spots in life. And thankfully, I always had somebody to connect with in my team who was going through what I was going through. But beyond that, having a godly man or a godly woman to look up to and to learn from. And I think the amount of times Colin or you met with Duncan and encouraged him, and then Tammy with me, she's always a phone call away. She has, since college, I've called her and she's like in Home Depot or like driving Britain somewhere, or she has me on speakerphone and Lainey's there and she's like, can I leave you on speakerphone? I'm like, yes, you can. Lainey can hear. It's just, I don't know. I feel like you can't find that many places.
Well, so you leave, and you go start your profession. And in FCA, obviously, it's not just so much just those initials, but it's serving and living in an act of God, that you take that wherever you go. And so you go into a program that may not have all believers.
Yeah.
There may not be any believers on the team, and you're used to coming to an FCA where it's accepted by coaches, administration, everybody. How do you deal with that?
I think my first half season was in Turkey, and a lot of people over there practice Islam. And so being isolated, isolated with your faith. Like, I was the only believer there. It really, I don't know, maybe it's not being in the States where I feel like it's hard to talk about some things. Like, you don't want to offend people. It's just, and I need to be better about that and being bold. But it was really easy for me overseas to just ask people because they just think you're this naive American. And I was totally. So I would just ask, like, what do you believe? Like, what does it mean to be a Muslim? Like, what do you have to do? How do you get to heaven? And asking them questions has been so easy. And even in Italy, when most people are Catholic or say they're Catholic, has been fun for me to learn about other people's faith. And then it has made me question my own a little more, not totally like in a doubt kind of way, although it has like raised some doubts, but that leads you to pursue it more. And like, why do I believe? Like, how can I trust this? Like, how can you believe that a man rose from the dead? And doesn't it just keep you from doing certain things on earth? And it's just opened my eyes.
Yeah. I mean, and you raise great points on that. To ask questions, to know how to defend your faith, to know what you truly believe in. And when you say ask questions, I think it's 301 questions that Jesus asked. Now, and he knew all the answers. So why would I ask the questions? Because he wanted to get people talking. And so I think that's awesome. That's not intimidating for the other person to just answer questions about their life, about their family. And then, we can share our beliefs. We can share the things that we put our hope in. So now, tell us about you and Duncan. Tell us where you're at, what you all are doing now.
So we're living with his parents right now, in his childhood bedroom. And everyone is so shocked when I'm like, yeah, we're living with the in-laws. And it has really made me realize that I hit the jackpot. Like, not everyone can say they enjoy living with their in-laws, but I find it fantastic. And they're treating us well. And I said sometimes I don't quite feel like we're married because we do everything as like a family. And I feel like we're just like kids again, or like best friends. And we're married in their home. Like, we grocery shop together, and they're so generous with their time and like the food. Like, they're really just providing everything for us. So our life is really simple right now. For the past 2 years, we've been in Italy together. And that's crazy to think that he came all the way over there for me, to not have a job, to not really have a plan. And he was getting his master's online. So that provided something. But really, he was just over there isolated for me. That's the only reason he went. And since then, been with the national team in the summer, and he stays at home with his family. And now we're just waiting to move to Madison, Wisconsin, November 1st, because the second pro league in the United States is starting November 1st, League One. And we're pumped for that, to not have to leave and go back to Europe. We're so happy to stay here.
Yeah. Matt, I got to ask you, like, even when you say you're living with your in-laws, you hit the jackpot, you're living in the basement, you're going shopping with them. Some people are like, is that real? But that is real. That's you. Like, you never seem like you have a bad day. Like, you just have like a gift that just turns, like, you can turn a bad situation into like, this is really, really good. This is a blessing. This is for our best. This is we're gonna be okay. And it's not a front, or it's not a lie that's real. Where you get that from?
Well, it's hard to have bad days when I don't have to work right now. Like, my only responsibility is our puppy, and like staying in shape and getting ready to go play. So I think right now I'm grateful for that free time, and neither him nor his parents make me feel like I'm lazy or anything. So now it is hard to have a bad day, but I think just trusting that God is able to work good through things. Like, when I was in Turkey, we were engaged, and he was still finishing college, and I was over there alone, and that was like awful. And I'm so glad now that I went, and the people treated me so well. And looking back, especially now that I've had other professional seasons, I know how it can be, and I was so well taken care of. But it was just this tiny town in Turkey, no other Americans on my team, and Duncan was here in college, and I was so jealous of him. Like, he got to go to FCA, and like my teammates would see him, and he would text me and be like, "Oh, I talked to Kara Cressy tonight," and I would be like, so jealous. And I feel like I was a jerk to him while I was in Turkey, just because I didn't know what was going on. But over there, being isolated like that, I feel like that really taught me that, I don't know, sometimes, and that is the bare minimum of suffering. But at the time, that was like the greatest thing I had ever, the biggest, hardest thing I had ever done. And just trusting that there is going to be good from that. And looking back, there's so much good from it.
Yeah. You know, as far as like, I love when an athlete, a professional or collegiate, they never hold on to anything too tightly, you know, where something can become an idol. Mm-hmm. You know, I love it when athletes said, "Hey, I'm going to use this until whenever." And then whatever else, well, God's got me. You've never seen, and you're really, really good at the craft and the profession of volleyball, but you've never held on to it like with white knuckled, like, "Hey, God, if this is something you want to take away and the season is over, then so be it."
Yeah.
Again, I know you get that from God, but how do you keep that in check?
I thank God for my good performances. Like when we finish a game, I'm like, just to remind myself that it is me doing the work, but like it is a gift. I thank him for that. And like last summer with the national team, I wanted to just quit. Like I hated playing. And I called you and Tammy about that. And I was just itching for someone to tell me it was the right thing to do. And I do think that having a husband and having great in-laws and having a fantastic family of my own makes it easier to hold volleyball loosely, because it isn't the only good thing in my life. And so sometimes I do struggle with knowing, am I holding loosely because of my faith and I know it's not ultimate, or is it because I have other earthly things that can fill that void? So sometimes I don't know how good I am at it. But I do just think the longer I've played, and like the highs and lows of making a team, getting cut, making a team, getting cut, and then not making the Olympics this summer, and stuff like that makes me hold it loosely, because I thought to myself, like, even if I were to make the Olympic roster, even if I were to do this, like, there's still more. There's still a middle who's better than me. And like right now, like my goal is to make the Olympics in 2028. But when I watch college games on TV, I'm like, holy crap, like these middles haven't even graduated, and they're like 6'4" and jump higher than me, and they'll probably be healthier than I am at that point. And it's just like eye-opening, like you are replaceable, and that used to really scare me. And like Dan Meskey would text me sometimes, and he's like, Kara Cressy's gonna be the next big like middle for the Team USA, like she's got it, like I can see it. And part of me's like, but I want to be that. And I would be so happy for her to get it. And the longer I played, the more I'm like, if it's theirs, it's theirs. And there's really nothing I can do about it. And even if I were to get it, there's still more. Yeah. It's just never ending.
Yeah. What would you say if you had to like go back to Anna as a senior in high school or a sophomore in college, or even a junior in whatever? What would you say now, all of the life that you've lived and you started to live? And it's not a lot, but you're still, you know, like it's been a good little gap already. What would you say to yourself?
I think so many times, like high school, college, post-college, I've been able to fill in the blank of like, if I had blank, then I would feel confident, or then I would feel secure, or then I wouldn't worry. And I think the only way to fulfill that statement is like with God. And it's not like if I had God, I do have him, and I have salvation. But when you try and fill that with, if I were just to make the team, or if he would just like me, or if the team thought I was so cool, like those are so fleeting. And And I've had multiple answers to that blank in my lifetime, like high school, college.
So what, like volleyball, I mean, whenever that's over, whenever that may be, what's something that you've always wanted to do? Like I want to be this is what I like to do.
I would love to have a family. I want to be a mom. And I guess growing up, you just think it happens. And like now that I have friends and family trying to start families, I'm like, holy cow, like it can be impossible sometimes. Like you just don't know. So that's kind of scary. But I would love to have kids of my own, and I would love to stay home with them. I would love to continue to play while I have kids. That's a goal of mine, and I think with the league and the state starting, that they've made that a big primary goal, because a lot of women, they have to give it up. In the summers with Team USA, the men's national team also practices in the same facility as the women. And like one day of the summer, they have the wives and girlfriends come, and they all come in and they've got kids. And like some of our team was like, man, like none of us. And there's nothing wrong with not having that, but it's just a stark contrast between what the men's team has, because I guess their wives and families can go with them. But for the women, like you don't want to play and take a kid to like Japan, and then who are you going to leave him with? And like, is your husband, does he have a job, or can he come with you? So it's just harder for women, I would say. But now with the league in the States, that's going to be a possibility. And I'm really excited.
I'm going to be excited to see that as well. I know you'll be a fantastic mom, and Duncan will be an incredible dad as well. In your word, what do you learn? I know you love to read. I know you guys came and you stayed at our house and grabbing books, and I'm glad someone shares, Tammy shares that with me as far as like the love to read. What's something you're reading, and what is God's word challenging you?
Right now, I just finished 2 Samuel today, and I have been challenged just overall with the Old Testament to see God the same as everyone always says, like the God of the Old Testament is the same as the God of the New Testament. And that has just been really hard for me. And then I'm like, is my faith real? Like, do I actually believe? And that has been hard because the book of Judges is insane. And the things that happen. And then one of my closest friend, and she's like, how can you believe that? Like, who wrote this stuff down? Like, and there's some minute details, like he took out their hamstrings or like hung them by their big toe. I don't know, but there's just so much detail, and sometimes the God of the Old Testament is scary, and I'm like, did they really deserve that? Or, and then I hate having those thoughts, so I'm just learning to like reconcile the two views and just trying to learn more about him through that.
And in those readings and in that struggle, internal struggle, when you go to God and like, hey, help me discern this, help me learn what this is. I think he's a good father. He doesn't keep that from us. He discloses himself as we get into the Word, as we read. I've yet to hear an audible voice from the sky and answer my questions. But as I search the Scripture and as I approach it with a childlike faith, not as an older, stubborn guy in his own ways, God speaks to me through His Word, and just like He speaks to His believers. So that's a good thing. 2 Samuel.
Yeah. Have you ever fasted?
I have.
I tried it. One of my teammates, Danielle Catino, she encouraged me to try, and I did for just one day, and I was convinced I was going to hear God's voice. And I did not hear anything. I didn't have any crazy revelations. And then I felt a little disappointed, and then I felt guilty about feeling disappointed, because the whole purpose is to just point you to your need for Him.
Yeah.
And I guess it did, because you are hungry, and that does, you're like, oh, hungry, I'm going to pray, or I'm going to read. But yeah, what has been your experience with fasting?
I think fasting, obviously, just giving up something that you love for something that you love more. And I'm challenged to. I have fasted several times. and I don't know that you get an answer like immediately or like some of my answers weren't given until weeks, months, or whatever
Yeah.
later. I could be praying about something. I know that, coming out of college, there was a relationship that I was in, and I fasted over that. Like, Lord, please make this crystal clear. And as time went on, He made it crystal clear that this is not the one. You fast for our kids. God's speak to their hearts. And I don't think it's just a fasting of like a one time. I think it's like a continual time. But even hearing you vocalize your not upsets, but you're just, hey God, I did this. How come you didn't do this? I think that's healthy. That's healthy to like throw that out there. He already knows what you're feeling anyways. So to be able to throw that out on the table and say, I thought you were going to speak to me. He's going to.
Yeah.
Hang on. Hang on. The sequel's coming. It's he's going to speak. But as I continually go and do that, he makes himself known. So fasting, that's a deep thing too. That's good.
Yeah, it just kept popping up. Like, I've fasted things before, but never truly food, and I kind of felt like that was not something important anymore. Like, in my head, I know it happens, and Jesus does it in the New Testament, but in my head it was just like Old Testament. Like, we don't have to do it, until I started reading for myself. And then Danielle Katina was talking about her experience, and I was like, man, like, this keeps popping up. Like, I need to just do it. And yeah,
The thing that you were praying with and you fast, and are you still catching yourself praying over that
yes,
that thing?
Duncan, we are praying for Duncan to get a job in
Yeah.
Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And I know, like, that prayer could be answered with like the most basic, lowly job, but I want him to have a job that he loves, because he has given up a lot to come with me to do what I love, and I want him to have something that he can be excited about. And so yeah, when speaking of FCA, I emailed the state director for Wisconsin.
Yeah.
With FCA, and it's really different, or maybe it's not so different. They don't have a whole lot of university employees of FCA, but it's really big in high school.
Yeah.
And we got on a Zoom with him, and he lives in the area we're going to be living in, and invited us to his church. He said he wants to help us move into our apartment, and he has some people in his church that would have spots for Duncan to work in. And I can't say that they're like this job that he really wants, but I mean, that prayer will be answered. It might not be the coolest thing in the world, and I hope it is. And that's what we're praying. And that was actually one of the first things we prayed out loud about, because we pray over food like a blessing. But the other night we prayed for like him to get a job, and we finished. And I was like, 2 years into marriage, and that was kind of nice. It was like a nice feeling to pray together. And Duncan was like, I'm glad we did that. And I'm like, me too. I don't know why we haven't done it more.
We used to have this mason jar that Tammy like painted on the outside, and it had some glitter on it, and then it had like a like chalk where she had wrote on there God can, like it was our God can. And so we would put like write things in there, and we would put it in the God can, and we would grab one out and pray for it, at night before it. We lost a God can in the transition of the moves, but we need to pull that back out. So just the continual habit of praying, as you said, not just praying like, Lord, thank you for this food, or Lord, like, thank you for a great day today. We can do more than that. He wants to hear our concerns and our wants and our needs, and he wants to hear that.
Yeah.
He wants to hear that.
Did you get to take anything out of the can? Like,
Oh
it
yes.
happened?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's cool.
Yeah, he will. I mean, he's a faithful God. God always answers our prayers, always, and it's either a yes, it's a no, or wait. I love the yes, and I'm really okay with the no. Sometimes I just want somebody to tell me no, but the waiting one, that's the hard one for me. 'Cause I am an impatient person.
Yeah.
I want to know how long, and God never discloses himself like that. He's like, wait. And in that waiting, he's in the waiting. And he's strengthening me. And he's building up the inner person within me, the Holy Spirit, to not depend upon myself, but depend upon him. And some of the greatest blessings I've ever received is when I waited. Mm-hmm. He didn't immediately answer it, but he just wait.
What's the craziest prayer you've seen answered?
Oh, wow. I mean, craziest prayer. I mean, I would think, with, just situations that would come about with our kids, like I'm talking about, like, there's nothing like a kid hurt. Mm-hmm. So when a kid is going through something and you're like, God, I need you. And so to see our kids that have battled through and fought through some adversity, those have been answered prayers. Answered prayers as far as support raising with FCA. That happens all the time. Mm-hmm. It's like, God, how are we going to continue to do this when we really only run one night where we really ask about funding? He's always provided that. Whether that's been, I could go, list could be on and on and on about, because he's faithful. He answers our prayers, and it's not always the way we want it. If he gave me everything I asked for, I probably wouldn't have been married to Tammy earlier. Yeah. I mean, like, how many times do you pray like, God, I love this girl. Please let her marry me. No, man, I'm glad you didn't answer that prayer, because I never would have met Tammy. And then when I brought Tammy home to my family, I said, Dad, I love this girl. I'm gonna marry her. I just remember my dad saying, "You've loved every girl you've ever brought home," and what made her different is just that, I wanted to do life and ministry with this lady. So I am glad he answered that prayer for sure. But it's just all in its timing. Yeah, just waiting. Well, I'm glad that you came in and talked with us. 3 girls. I promise you, if any of my girls grew up, I hope all of them do, to grow up to be like you, man. I'm gonna be blessed. And I just don't say that. Like, I really don't. Like, I want you to feel that. Like,
that's really kind.
Yeah, because there's a spirit about you, just humility, and you're excellent at your stuff, and you love people great. You love people that serve God, but you also love people that don't. And you give yourself to people, and that's a gift. That's a joy. I hope and pray my girls will grow up, yes, to be like Jesus, but I'd like them to grow up to be like their mama too, but also you. Yeah, it's good stuff. So thanks for coming in and being part.
Thank you, Chris.
You please tell your husband I said hello.
I will. I wish he was here.
Guys. All right. Yeah. It's great seeing you.
Thank you.